Going on, everybody? Got a lot of people joining. My guy Ty, thanks for joining. I know you're at home with your beautiful family. Thanks for joining. Well, I know you're probably having a busy evening as well. Welcome to everybody else just joining in. I see a lot of familiar names. I see Amina, I see Neil Robson, I see Ryan, I see Steve, Tim, Tashana. See a lot of familiar names. Khan, thanks for joining. Jesse. All right, we're gonna get started in a bit, but I'm gonna give it a few more minutes so more people can roll in. In the meantime, why don't everyone just drop where they're calling in from? Vancouver. Vacation in Mexico. Lucky man. Cambridge. Busy living with the kids are trashing the place. Yeah, I could imagine. It's probably loud right now for you. We're probably gonna get started at 6:05, so give it a cool 5 minutes, excuse me, for more people to roll in. Got a few dozen people just hopping in now. But I'm excited. I see a lot of names that even had messaged me about this project prior to the webinar. So thanks for joining. Nice to see a lot of people come on. Tim, nice to see you. Calling in from Ottawa. Mohit, thanks for joining. Alrighties, guys. We're gonna get started in just a minute. Thank you, Amina. All right, let's just get started. So I see a lot of familiar names, but for those that don't know me, my name's Luke Leasing. I'm with REC Canada. I pretty much manage and look after all things related to new construction here at REC Canada. I know the way we're doing this webinar is a little bit different than the way we normally do it. We probably have a builder representative. We normally have Jazz or CMOs, or again, a builder representative. And normally we give a few days, if not a few weeks, as a heads up that we're doing something like this. But an opportunity came up, and it came up quite quickly. It was a project that we were already familiar with, but a new set of incentives came out that really enticed us, like Sunday night. So we made the decision yesterday to do a quick presentation just for anyone that might be interested in something like this. It's more exclusive in the sense where we don't have any access to hard allocation. We don't have any access to how should I say this? The way we traditionally do things, where the builder allocates us units, because it was a last second thing. We're a little bit it's more so about what's available at the builder's office. And last we checked, there weren't really many units left. But I'm not going to talk about the project yet. For those just joining, I see a lot of familiar names that have bought pre-construction with us before. And the way we like to open up these conversations is we like to just talk about the strategy, because there's two main benefits of investing in real estate, and it's important that you know both of them, because then it opens the door for both new investors and seasoned investors. So what do I mean by that? The main benefit is the fact that you don't have to get a mortgage today. So the big thing that we're seeing in every single headline nowadays is the borrowing power that buyers lack in today's market. And the reason being is because interest rates are so high. So the economy and the slowdown that we're seeing in the real estate market is happening because interest rates are so high. There's less people that can afford to buy. So that means there's more listings just staying on the market. It's, things are not obviously as fast. And it comes down to the borrowing power, comes down to interest rates, right? The cost to borrow is much higher, which is why we're now seeing the slowdown in today's market. With pre-construction investing, we don't have to get a mortgage until closing. And for the condo projects that we typically work with, closings anywhere from 3 to 4 years long on average. There are some projects where they're as long as 5 years long or 6 years long. But typically the build times are anywhere between 3 to 4 years. That's benefit number one. We like to look for projects that have that extended closing, so we don't have to deal with interest rates today. We don't have to get a mortgage today. Or let's just say, you're an experienced investor and you have 11 properties in your portfolio, and now it's getting a little bit tougher to qualify for financing because you're maxed out. Pre-construction nice because you can still take advantage of the real estate market without having to get a mortgage today, without having to commit your name to anything right up front for it to show on the radar to banks and lenders. So that's why we like the fact that the mortgage delayed aspect as a big benefit to investors. And the second reason is the fact that deposit structures are spread out over the course of those 3 to 4 years that I mentioned. So the standard in a regular market is builders require 10% within the first 10 months of the launch date. So if I launch a project January 1st, I typically would want, as a builder, 10% by October 1st. And the reason being is because that's what these lenders look at when it comes to giving construction financing to builders. So that's why whenever you see a deposit structure come out, it's almost always the same. A builder is going to ask for $5,000 at signing, the balance of 5% in 30 days, 5% in 6 months, whatever it is. It's typically 10% spread out over those 10 months. The opportunity we're going to be bringing to the table, as you guys saw from Jazz's email, has a very extended deposit structure, one that we've never seen before. So I've been in business for almost 5 years now. Jazz has been doing this for 20 years, so much longer than I have, and he's never seen a deposit structure this extended. And we're going to talk about the project. We're going to talk about the details of that later down the presentation. But those two things are the main things we like to look for. The fact that we don't have to get a mortgage today, so we're skipping all of the concerns about interest rates and getting financing and borrowing power. We're skipping that concern. And the fact that we only need 5% in total for this upcoming project. Typically, we need 10% in the first 10 months. We just need 5% over 3 to 4 years. So it's a very easy investment to get your foot in the door. And it also opens up a lot of doors, especially for those looking to diversify or get their first property. So what do we look for when we sell a property, before we sell a pre-construction project, before we do a massive launch? For those that know us, they know that we do only anywhere from 6 to 8 projects a year. We don't promote every single project that comes up. And the reason being is because we want the word that we speak of, or excuse me, the projects that we speak of, and we want our word to hold weight. So when we say we have a project, it's been pre-vetted and we know it's going to provide an exceptional return. Because we don't say it often, you know that when we do say it, it actually means something. So that's the reason why we only launch those 6 to 8 projects a year. But how do we filter those things out? So there's 3 main things. The first one comes down to location. Location to us is important because the moment you deploy your capital into a location, you cannot pick up that building and move it. On top of that, once you deploy your capital into a pre-construction project, your capital is tied into that project until closing. It's not like you can just cancel it in a year from now and get your money back. If you do that, the builder's going to sue you. You have you have what's called a 10-day due diligence period, where after signing something, there's a formality where you get to review it and whatnot. That's fine. But in terms of canceling midway, like throughout the timeline, that's not allowed. So it's important that we invest in an area where we know the growth is there. There's employment, there's transit. These are some of the big things we like to look for. We like to follow where the big money goes, all of these other things. So location is absolute key. Number 2 is to build a reputation, because in today's market, I mean, some of the true colors are starting out to show from some of these builders, and thankfully, it's none of the builders that we're working with. But even in today's market, even in a normal market, there are builders that will cancel a project. Maybe they were over leveraged. Maybe they couldn't get the financing. Maybe their money's too tight for them. Whatever the case may be, there are scenarios where a project might get canceled, and it sucks. It sucks not because you don't lose your money. I'll say that. Whenever you purchase a pre-construction project, all of your funds are held in trust at a lawyer's office. So in the event a project gets canceled, all of your money comes back, and a lot of times it comes back with interest as well. The part that sucks is the time that you've lost that you could have put that money elsewhere. Because if funds were held up for a year, 2 years, and then it gets canceled, you could have been earning a proper return over those 1 to 2 years in another investment, in another area. I think Tim Wong is reading my mind. So builder has to check off. So the builder has to check off because you want to make sure you're partnering with a builder that has a reputation of closing, that is quite reasonable when it comes to project completions. And I see quite reasonable because there's always going to be delays. That's a given. The city of even Hamilton has delayed that LRT that they've been talking about. Toronto's obviously LRT, that thing's been delayed. So it's not even a builder thing. It's also, there's a lot of other factors that go into delays. So reasonable completion times, etc. So we have location builder. The third and last thing is probably, and it's also probably the reason why a lot of you guys are not watching this webinar, are the incentives. So the 3 main incentives that we like to look for are the standard ones, like the right to assign. And what that incentive means is you have the ability to sell your contract, your pre-construction unit, prior to occupancy. Now, we don't advise going into an investment with the intentions of assigning. We prefer that you close on it because, historically speaking, if we look at over the last 100 years of Canadian real estate data, so this is dating 100 years back, 1923, every 10 years, values double. So we preach buy and hold. And the reason being is because if we try to sell you the idea that you're going to make $200,000 on an assignment and 2023 happens and the market slows down and you're not going to make 200,000, in fact, you're only going to make 20, guess who looks bad? Our organization does. But we preach buy and hold. And the reason being is because now we don't have to sell you a dream. Now we're transparent. Now we know, based on 100 years of data, every 10 years, your values are going to double. So what does that look like? On average, that's anywhere between 7 to 8%. It depends on the year over year in terms of appreciation rates. But call it 5%. Based on 5% appreciation rates on these pre-construction units that we have been launching, our investors over 3 to 4 years typically see an uplift of anywhere from 120,000 to 150,000. Now, you didn't actually have to do any work. You didn't have to fix any toilets. This isn't a resale property. It's very passive. All you really did was made sure you invested in the right area, and then you saw that uplift. It's as simple as that. And yeah, I mean, so these are the things we like to look for. Going back to the point about assignments, that clause is just used for a safety net, as a safety net, if you will. So in the event where we run into a 2023 and maybe you can't get the financing, right now interest rates are hovering around 6%. Maybe that's too high for us. Maybe we can't afford that. Maybe our cash flow is going to be too low for us to even justify closing on it. In the event that it doesn't make sense financially, you can sell it. Or let's just say you completely left the country and you don't want to live in Canada anymore. Maybe you move to Mexico because my friend Neil Robson here doesn't want to end his vacation and decide to just stay in Mexico. You could do that, and you could sell the unit, liquidate, and then exit. That's number one, right to assign. Right. Number two is the right to lease during occupancy, and this is also important because there's 2 stages to closing. There's final registration, which is your final closing. That's your typical closing process whenever you buy a house or a condo. That's when you get your mortgage, you exchange keys, that's when you see the statement of adjustments, all of that stuff. Prior to final registration, there's something called occupancy. Occupancy is when the building is 85-90% complete in terms of construction. But because it's not fully complete yet, the builder can't register the title into your name. It's still going to be under their name. But because your unit is ready to be moved into, instead of them leaving it vacant, they're going to start to move people into the building. But you as an investor, you don't want to move there yourself. It's important you have a tenant in there paying down what's called a phantom rent, an occupancy fee is what some people call it. And what it is, it's pretty much a number of fees that you're going to be paying for anyway, just without collecting an income, without the right to lease during occupancy. So what are some of those things? So for example, a portion of the builder's mortgage interest, a portion of the projected property taxes, a portion of the projected maintenance fees, all of these things that you're going to be paying anyway, the builders are going to start charging you that earlier on before you even close on it to cover some of their expenses. Now, if you don't have a tenant paying you a rent at that time, you're going to be out of pocket $1,000 a month, $2,000 a month, whatever the numbers are. But on the flip side, if you have a tenant paying you X amount of dollars, you could actually turn a negative cash flow situation into a positive cash flow situation. So that incentive we always have, because a lot of people don't know it, which is why some people call it the phantom rent, because it's kind of like something you don't even know about, but we know about it. So we prepared our investors ahead of time about that. And then third and last thing are the capping of development charges. Development charges are fees that are going to come up at final closing. It's like a closing cost that the city charges the builder charges a portion of those fees to you. And because we don't know what these fees are going to be in 3 to 4 years from now, we have them capped at a certain amount. And it depends on the unit sizes, but they're going to range anywhere from $15,000 to $22,000, depending on your unit sizes. But surprise, surprise, everything that I just talked about, from location, the builder partner we're working with, and as well as the incentives, they all check off. And one incentive that I didn't mention, and it's also the same one that you guys saw in the email, is the deposit structure. It's 2% now, 1% in 3 months, 2% in 6 months. We've never seen a deposit structure like this before, because builders typically, as I mentioned earlier, they require a 10% deposit within the first 10 months. This development, I think my friend Tim Wong already guessed the name of the project. It's called Television City. Now, full transparency about this project. We launched this project early last year. I want to say early last year at the first round pricing. So there's the price per square foot last year when we first launched it was a little bit lower. The price per square foot that it is at now is a little bit higher. However, the deposit structure is only 5%. Those that invested in the first launch, yes, they got a slightly better price per square foot, but they have the standard deposit structure, which is 10% this year, 5%, I believe, next year, and then 5% at occupancy, if I'm not mistaken. So they're going to tie up more capital. Yes, they get a slightly better price per square foot. But this builder, Brad Lamb, just released this incentive to us just this past Sunday, and they sent a number of different units. And I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to give you guys a little quick overview in terms of what everything looks like, so you guys can envision it, not just, rely on my word. I want you guys to actually see the city. I want you guys to see the action and see what's happening. But yeah, they released these units just Sunday night, and there's only a handful of them, which we're going to be opening up to you guys. But I'm going to share my screen in just a moment. And now you guys are going to start to see what I talk about, when I'm referring to when I talk about location. So here's their brochure, and here's what we're looking at. So this project is called Television City in downtown Hamilton. As you can see, the building's located right here. It's right off Jackson Street in downtown Hamilton. Two things that already caught my attention. The new LRT that's coming, this thing isn't speculation. It's already been fully funded and approved as of 2021. It was a $3.4 billion. It is a $3.4 billion project coming to Hamilton. And then we also have the Hamilton Go Center. There's another Go Center at West Harbor that's not listed here because it's like a 22-minute walk. This one is more of a 7 to 8, maybe 9-minute walk. If you're Jazz, maybe like a 15-minute walk. But this is the Hamilton Go Center. And the most important thing that we like about this project in terms of location is the new LRT coming. So it's a 14-kilometer line. It's going to start from McMaster's and then stretch all the way down to Eastgate, which carries on down here. And the reason why this is important is because this project is going to be completed the same year Television City is completed, which is 2027. So that's very nice for us because it's about a 7 to 9 minute walk or so to the LRT. If you have students, they can take the LRT and have direct access to McMaster, because every stop is only 600 to 800 meters in between. So it's a fast trip. LRT, $3.4 billion fully funded project, 14 kilometers, 17 stops, integrated with GO Transit, estimated to be completed in 2027. So that's the location aspect being checked off. One thing I wanted to note about this is some of the key destinations. I'm going to talk about one thing else, but Hamilton Go, we talked about this. It's a 9-minute walk. So that this, by the way, is already existing. So even if the LRT didn't exist, this exists, which has direct access to Union Station in Toronto. This is what I really like as an investor. And let me tell you why. McMaster's University is at the start of the LRT, which your tenants will have direct access to, assuming you have students as your tenants at McMaster's. But on top of McMaster's being the 4th largest university in Canada, we have Brock and we have Mohawk. I was going to say Boreal, but I've never actually heard of this college before, but I know Mohawk and Brock, excuse me. Why do I like this as an investor? Why do I like the fact that Mohawk is a 9-minute drive, Brock is in St. Catharines? Yes, it's far, 38-minute drive, but why do I like the fact that McMaster's is right around the corner, right? Just right off the LRT. It actually, the LRT, again, starts right at the campus in Hamilton. Why do I like this? This is what I like to call, in my own terms, an insurance policy. Why do I call it an insurance policy? Let's just say for some reason, I don't have any tenants, which will never happen because Hamilton has a less than 1% vacancy rate. Let's just say my standard tenant isn't there. I know every September of every single year, I'm going to have a new set of students coming in. So I know every September I have a new set of students. This is my insurance policy, because McMaster's they're always going to be enrolling new students. Mohawk, Brock, all of these schools are going to be enrolling new students every September. Hess Village, for those that know Hess Village and Hamilton area, this is pretty much where kind of like the entertainment area is, where the nightlife is. This is where all the restaurants are, the bars, the pubs. I know Tyler on our team would probably know about it because he has some family that grew up in Hamilton, and he's spent some time in Hamilton himself. And this is where all the action is in Hamilton. But apart from that, I mean, here's some other nice features, nothing too crazy that would necessarily appeal to me as an investor. To me, I'm very interested as an investor in the GO. I'm interested in the LRT. I'm interested in the schools. But that's what it is when it comes to location. There's another thing that I can show you guys is the views, and then I'm going to get into where to find this information. So this is the actual site. You can see it in terms of views. Right now, it's all fairly unobstructed, but I wouldn't bank on that too much because there's a lot of residential development happening in Hamilton. So there's going to be obstructions in the near future. But there's a website that I'm going to tell you guys on how to find it in just a moment. But this is the project. And then when it comes to the deposit structure, again, as I mentioned, 2% now, 1% in 3 months, 2% in 6 months, and that's it. In terms of everything else that we like to look for in a project, it's already been checked off. In fact, we have, prior to this presentation, friends and family that have already purchased in this building. I myself, I didn't buy in this building, but I invested in a building on King Street, so just down the street from here. So maybe a 5 to 10 minute walk from this building, also pre-construction. I have invested in this building. My colleagues have, and our family members have. I say that because we put our money where our mouth is, because we're following the big money. We're following where the opportunities are. And to get all the information for this opportunity, I'm going to show you exactly where to find it right now by sharing my screen once more. It's here, reccanada.com/for sale. I'm going to drop the link, and I'm sure my colleagues are going to as well. I believe Tyler's here. Do I have Tyler here? Yep. Thank you, Tyler. All you have to do is just register and submit your information so you can get access to what we call our investor portal. So here's our investor portal. I'm going to be completely honest with you guys. The units that we have available are not of our choice. It was something the builder just sent to us Sunday night and said, hey, we have a few units. I'm going to sell them at only a 5% deposit. Do what you will with them. That was it. That was the conversations that we had. Normally, we like to hand select these units. They just threw them at us. And what we saw when we opened up the hot list, that is what they call it, is that they didn't have many units. And I'll be completely honest with you guys, half of them are garbage. I didn't like any of them. I saw a unit for $2.6 million. There's not a chance in the ever that I'm ever going to spend as an investor $2.6 million for a condo in downtown Hamilton. So half of them are garbage. The other half are pretty good. There are ones that are similar to a unit that I just purchased. They're similar to the ones that we like and a lot of our experienced investors purchase. So there are some units that are good, there are some that are not that appealing. To find them, just click available units. That will open up all of the floor plans, as you can see here. So they have, it looks like 16 units, 16 floor plans. And then when you go, and I'm just showing you guys here, when you guys go to price list, that's where you'll see this price list, as well as the deposit structure and some information about the project. The most important thing is, because as I mentioned, there's literally not that many decent, or excuse me, there's not many good units left. The rest of them, like I really just don't like this penthouse collection will never touch. That's for example, that for example, what I would recommend is everybody submit something called a reservation form. It's not a commitment to purchase. You're not buying anything. You're not signing anything. You're not putting down a deposit. What it looks like is this. All it's going to be asking is for your information, just so we know who you are. As you can see, this means required. SIN is not even required at this time, but eventually the builder will need it. So you could skip that for now. Fill this information in. We do need a copy of ID so the builder can confirm that you're a real person and not someone just putting down an inquiry and a reservation for a unit. And once you hit submit, and sorry, you also have to include your top 3 preferred units. So if you like this unit, for example, you're going to want to, I hope you don't like this 1,300 square foot unit. The thing probably costs an arm and a leg. But assuming you like channel PHO2, all you would have to do is just list it here. Put down your information, put down your top 3 preferred choices and any additional questions you might have. Hit submit. That's it. I just scrolled up and down. There's nowhere to sign anything. There's nowhere to buy anything. There's nowhere to put down a deposit. There's no commitment. We just need this because I only have, or at least the builder only has, a handful of decent units left. So if you wanted something, let's get this done now, sleep on it overnight, crunch the numbers, and then tomorrow, either myself or someone on my team will be giving you a call to talk about the project, some questions you might have, and first and foremost to see if something like this is a fit for you. And if it is, then we talk about next steps, because there's not enough units to go around for the amount of people that have attended. So I want to make sure everyone at least gets the information first. You put down your name, so you at least reserve and put up your hand for a unit. And then after that, we do our due diligence afterwards. We make sure our finances are in order. We should make sure that maybe our investor partners are on board. We want to make sure all of these things are in a row, but you'll miss the opportunity if you do those things first prior to putting in a reservation form. So my advice, put the reservation form in first and then do your due diligence afterwards, at least so your name is down. That's my long-winded answer in terms of why we as REC Canada have invested in Hamilton, in downtown Hamilton, why our family members have invested in Television City, why we're looking to partner with this builder. I'm going to let the next 5 to 10 minutes, I'm going to open it up for questions. I'm sure people have questions. If not, I either did a really good job or people are very bored. So I'm just going to brainwash myself and think I did a good job. Can I, yeah, so the builder is Brad Lime. He actually comes from a real estate sales background. So like most of us, he used to be a realtor and eventually he got into the development game. As of right now, he has completed a number of projects. I don't know the exact number at the top of my head, but there's a number of projects. Actually, Tyler and I were just talking about it in terms of what he completed, because he's built a lot of projects in the downtown Toronto area, and a lot of them are gorgeous. Some of our clients actually bought them as investments and then moved into them themselves because of how beautiful that they saw the building ended up turning out to be. So Brad Lamb, reputable builder, has completed projects in the past. Full transparency, I believe he has canceled one project in the past, but then he restarted it. I think it was an issue with regards to the company financing the construction company. It was a project in Toronto, and there was something issue with regards to the financing, the construction financing. So that's the question on builder. But apart from that, reputable builder has completed many projects. He has buildings all across Canada, not just in the GTA. What are the maintenance fees going to be? Let me just double check. It is 65. Oh, I don't have that. Property taxes I have at 60.65%. Maintenance fees, I apologize, are 63 cents a square foot. Is there parking given with each unit? No, parking is going to be for an additional purchase of $79,000. Lockers are 9,000. And the reason why they are at this price point, Sharon, is because, I mean, if you compare parking in Toronto compared to Hamilton, Hamilton is still half the cost of Toronto. In my opinion, I think the reason why parking has gone this high, especially in Hamilton, is because the cost of building for below grade parking units. So in Hamilton, the water levels are a little bit different. And because I'm not I don't dabble with all that science and stuff. It's just some reviews that studies that I have reviewed in the past. And it has something to do with the water levels below grade. And it's a little bit different in Hamilton, which make it harder for builders to build, which is why it's a little bit more expensive. I have people texting me questions. One of our clients wanted to, I guess he was a little bit shy. I didn't want to speak out here on the webinar, but goes, can you break down the dollar amounts for the deposit structure? So, I mean, let's just say we're looking at one of those one bedrooms. The exact number was 609,900, I believe. So let's say we're looking at a one bedroom for 609,000. We're going to need $12,200 in 30 days. 6,100 and in 3 months, and then 12,200 in 6 months. So again, about 12 grand now, 6,000 in 3 months, 12,000 in 6 months. The price per square foot is going to vary. So I know for the one bedrooms, they're flirting anywhere around that 1250 per square foot mark, but the two beds are flirting around I think I saw 1080 per square foot. So it's gonna range depending on the type of suite that you're looking at. Just trying to see if there's any other questions. All right, guys. I mean, doesn't seem like there's a lot of questions happening. Oh, sorry. What's up our unit? So how did you get the 12K minimum deposit? Because for example, on the $600,000, like to Jeff's question, the $600,000 one bedroom is going to be about $12,000, which is the first initial deposit needed for the project. So you have your standard amenities plus a pool. So they're gonna have a pool because there's two towers actually in this project, Tim. They're gonna be side by side, and there's gonna be a pool for both towers. You could say it's student friendly, but it's all your standard amenities plus the pool. Pool's not really standard, but it's the standard plus the pool. Any other questions? Alrighty, guys. I'm gonna drop the link once more just in case anybody missed it. But regardless, everyone's going to be getting a copy of this right after this call. I appreciate everybody for joining, but you can find all of the information here. What is the interest received on the deposit? That I don't know, Amina, because normally that information only really becomes relevant when there's a cancellation. Typically what the builder would need to pay interest, actually technically it's not the builder, it's the CRA that would need it. The government is, they need a SIN number. So eventually down the road, the builder's going to ask for a SIN number. And then that's the only way they can pay interest on your deposits in the event there's a cancellation. However, the project was brought to my attention today that construction has already started. So the likelihood of this canceling is almost 0%. It'd be very odd for a project to cancel while construction has already started. Alrighty, folks. For anyone else that has any other questions, I'm going to drop an email address. It's newbuilds@reccanada.com. If you had any other questions, send an email there. But I appreciate everybody, excuse me, for jumping on this webinar. I know it's late, it's getting late, and most of you would rather spend time either watching whatever hockey game's on or spending time with your family. So I appreciate your time today. If anybody needs anything, send a message to newbuilds@reccanada.com. And apart from that, either myself or someone on my team will be reaching out to you sometime tomorrow. I appreciate that, everybody. Have an amazing evening.